Hello, my name is Ted Gardner, and I'm an interviewer for the Public Library of Cincinnati and Hamilton County, and we're at this wonderful Wyoming Branch Library on the 28th day of November 2006, and our camera operator today is Diana Reif, and we're very pleased to be with her. Also present, of course, is our interviewee, Marvin Jablonsky. And Marvin, it's just a pleasure to be with you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you so
All right, fine. Where were you born, Marvin?
I was born in New York City. And I also lived in a rural area in upper New York State called Kerhonkson, New York.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Which you never heard of.
You're right.
It was a town of about 500 people.
No kidding. Near Albany or what?
No, near, I guess a main city there was Kingston, New York.
Oh, yeah.
That mean anything?
Sure. Well, that's
it's about 100 miles from New York City.
Right.
And I had also an interesting bicycle experience.
Oh, you did? How old were you?
When I was about 18 or 19, this is before I went into the service.
Uh-huh.
I rode up from the Bronx, where I lived, to Kerhonkson, New York in one day on a bicycle.
Well, now that's a real accomplishment.
That's
100 miles in one day.
100 miles, and a week later I went back the same way. I didn't have a car. My father never had a car.
Okay. Now, when were you born?
February 14, 1923.
Valentine's Day.
I am 83 now.
Right.
February 14, I will be 84.
Right. Well, that's just
and
terrific.
The 30th of this month, we will be married 59 years.
Congratulations. That's
a long time.
That's a long time.
People don't stay married.
That's right. We don't see much of that these days, do we?
I have children who don't.
I know. I know.
I have a daughter who has been married for the same man and only for a long time. I don't remember how many years.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well,
I have 5 children.
5 children. Marvelous.
5 children, 11 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren.
Oh, congratulations. Well, I have a hunch that you'll probably pick up a few more before...
I think so.
Before the end of the line. Tell me, Marvin, where did you go to school? Where did you start school?
Well, I started school in Kerhonkson, New York. And then I went to school in the Bronx. Mm-hmm. And there was a Morris High School I graduated from. In the Bronx, I went to City College of New York, where I graduated. I got a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. When I became 17, when I graduated high school at that time, and it was usual for those people, you get advanced if you're doing good in school.
Right.
So I got a job, and I went to college at night.
So your family moved back to the Bronx?
That's right.
Yeah, I got you.
And we used to go up there in the summertime.
Sure. Well, that's great. So after elementary school, then it was Morris High School.
Morris High School.
And I think I've heard of that. I think it's a pretty well-known school, Morris.
I think so.
Yeah, other people I've seemed to have read about.
I think some well-known people have.
Yes, I should say. Well, that's wonderful. And then at City College, you got your bachelor's and master's.
Then when I got out of the service, I went full-time. I went to City College part-time after work.
Right.
And
did you take the GI Bill?
I took the GI Bill, and I went full-time, and then I got a master's degree
in
at
what?
the same school, psychology.
Psychology. Oh, that is wonderful. Okay, so any particular other experiences you want to tell us about your life before you got into the service? Any wild wild adventures of youth or anything?
I didn't have it. Well, I can tell you about this trip that was interesting on a bicycle.
Yeah.
There was one steep hill going up. I couldn't make it all the way up on the bicycle, so I walked to the top.
Push a bike.
And going down the hill, I was going pretty fast. I didn't use the brake.
Yeah.
And I remembered there was a car alongside of me and we're both going at the same rate. You don't have experiences like that anymore.
You're lucky you survived.
And, you know, today I would think it's dangerous, but then you don't think of dangers.
Of course, I know exactly how you feel.
You probably look back into your...
Oh my goodness. You know, some hairbreadth adventures that we're lucky to
And I used to
have.
travel, like people would go by, taking a 20-mile bicycle ride. It was nothing very much.
Nothing at all, no. As a matter of fact, and I think I felt the same way you did, it was a great adventure. And it was something you wanted to accomplish.
That's right.
Absolutely, and you could talk about it, and brag about
Well,
it.
I've done lots of things. I don't know, I also swim.
Oh, you do? Good for you.
Distances.
Uh-huh. How many laps do you do?
Well, this last year I slowed down a little. But before that I was doing 40 laps.
40 laps.
25-meter laps,
Right.
which is 1 kilometer,
Right.
without stopping.
Correct. That is great.
I'm slow at it,
Uh-huh.
so it would take me a little over an hour to do the kilometer.
Right, right. What do? You do the combination of
I sort of
the breast
alternate
and the
between an
side?
overhand and a side stroke.
Yeah.
I picked this up. I picked up, I mean, I swam before I got wounded, but I was in a hospital in San Francisco.
Oh, at Letterman? Were you at Letterman?
Letterman was in New Jersey, I think. I forgot the name. The one in the Presidio.
Yeah. Wonderful
In
place.
San Francisco.
Sure, beautiful
And then
place.
they had a pool there, and I picked up swimming there.
Oh, that's great.
And I got
Okay,
discharged from there.
so at what point did you go into the service, and what branch of the service?
Well, I got into the service in about January of 1943. I can't remember exactly.
Right.
That strikes me.
Yes.
And I think I got discharged in August of 46. I got a medical discharge.
Okay.
And when you want to hit my Army history, is that
Yes,
it?
did you anticipate ahead of time that the Army was what you wanted to go into?
I don't know it.
Yeah.
When I got in, I volunteered. I don't think I was drafted, but I felt I was going to.
Sure.
So maybe I just volunteered then, and I had some basic training.
Right.
And that was followed by schooling. They felt I was pretty smart.
Right.
I agree with them. I won't contradict.
Why not? Absolutely. Something
So they sent me to a meat and dairy inspecting school.
of all things.
Yes. So
And you weren't even a country boy.
well, I was at one time.
Yeah, right.
I remember when I lived in the country, we would go to a farmer and buy milk, freshly milked.
Right.
Tastes different than the
Right out of the cow.
right out of the cow. I enjoy things like that.
Yes, I did too. I did too.
I did things probably do you know what huckleberries are?
Oh, you bet.
Did you go pick them?
Picked huckleberries, you bet.
I used to go picking huckleberries.
Oh, that's wonderful. I just
People don't even know what they are.
no.
And they
no.
taste better than the commercial blueberry.
Oh yeah, they had much more flavor, much
Oh,
more
yeah.
flavor to them. Well, that's wonderful. So you had a lot of these really sort of life-forming experiences,
Oh, yeah.
which
And
stood you in good stead.
Then when I finished meat and dairy inspecting school, they sent me to, I think it was around the San Antonio, Texas area.
Mhm.
I became a dental assistant. They trained me, on-the-job training.
How about that? Of course, now in those days, travel was by train,
Yes.
and you went from New York to Texas?
Wherever they sent me.
Sure.
And I was a little ambitious, and they had a program, AST, you're familiar with the
ASTP.
ASTP, Army
Yeah, you
Specialized
bet.
Training Program.
You bet.
And I got a chance to go to college. I figured here I can go to college, and so this was in, I think in Philadelphia, Drexel School of Tech,
Oh, Drexel Institute. there.
Drexel Institute.
Oh, wow.
And I spent 3 months there, and then they closed down the ASDP programs everywhere, and they sent us all into the infantry. If I was so ambitious, I probably wouldn't have gotten into the infantry in the first place.
I know. That's a very common experience, as you well know.
Yeah, well,
So many fellows were sent the same way.
here's a chance to advance my education.
Absolutely. Well, now, so the dairy inspection program and then the dental assistant training program, then what came after that? After your dental?
Then I was sent into the infantry. That was in Louisiana.
That's when you went
and
to
then I was the 84th Infantry Division called the Rail Splitters.
Oh, sure.
You familiar with that?
Yeah, you had the axe as a
That's
symbol.
right, the axe and the...
Abraham Lincoln's axe. Sure.
And,
Well, that...
you want to hear how I got wounded?
Well, before that, let's find out where were you sent for embarkation?
I guess into the New York, New
Jersey area.
We were shipped over by ship, and then we went to England.
Right.
Spent time in England, and when I don't remember exactly when, the Normandy area was already occupied, but I didn't go in
I see.
at the time in fighting in there.
So that would have been 44 then.
In 44.
After June of 44.
In the latter part of 44.
Yeah, right.
And then we shipped across.
Across the English Channel. And
Oh, I have an interesting experience. While I remember an officer saying, "You know any French?" Well, you will learn a little now.
I know a little. I know a
We
little.
were sent to France, and an officer, I don't know why he said, told us a French expression which should help us socialize better. Voulez-vous coucher avec moi?
Oh, yeah. Kiss me.
You know what that means? You want to lie down with me?
A boucher, a kiss me on the mouth.
Coucher avec,
Yeah.
voulez-vous coucher
Yeah, coucher, lying down, that's right.
avec moi?
Yeah, yeah, well, that way,
He didn't give us any examples to experience it with.
oh, I know, my dad served in World War I in France.
Yeah.
And of course, he was so proud of the fact that he knew the song Mademoiselle from Armentier's Parlez-vous, you know. That was about all the French he ever got.
I had studied some French, I think, in school.
Sure, I'll bet you did. I'll bet you did.
Yeah.
Well, that was, how much schooling did you have before you got into the Army?
About 1 year of college.
About 1 year of college,
accumulated,
right.
Which I used later on. I went back
Yeah.
to the same school.
And was that at CCNY too?
Uh,
At City
Yes.
College?
And also at CCNY, yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's the only place I went to school.
Right, I got you. Okay, so there you were in England, you went across the channel.
That's right.
And where did you land there?
They landed us on a boat that the front opens up and you walk into the water.
LST, yeah,
I forgot the names. but-
yeah. Landing ship, common
Then
tank.
after you want my experiences and
Yes,
how I
now,
got,
okay, so you're on land now in France?
and you travel either by bus or truck or what have you, or by foot.
Right, right.
And I got wounded in the beginning of December of 44.
No, was that in the Ardennes?
I think Aachen is, I remember that name of the place.
Oh, Aachen, Germany.
We went
yeah,
through there.
Sure.
And the town I got wounded was Lindern, Germany. Do you know?
I've heard of it, yes.
Okay, so,
Okay. How did you get wounded?
okay. I volunteered for something.
Not always a good idea.
I know, but I may have got it
I
otherwise.
know.
So, in some ways, it's remarkable I survived. I'll explain this.
Okay.
This was in early December, and the place you sleep in is kind of cold there, and you sleep on the ground.
Right. Where else? That's right.
That's the way it was.
That's it.
I think I got frostbite on the foot
Oh, yeah.
also, but I was able to still keep going.
Right, right.
And there was somebody wounded in our outfit, and I decided to go into town to find a first aid station for him.
Mhm.
There was nothing else doing around then. So I locate this first aid station, and I am starting to go back, and an artillery shell hits a building near me, and I got splattered with shrapnel
Oh,
in
Wow.
a half a dozen places.
dear me, that's terrible.
There was nobody around, so I walked back to the first aid station I located.
Isn't that amazing?
Most people would have died.
Yes, yeah. But you were determined to
I had the
survive.
ability. I was wounded in both legs,
Were you?
and I also still have a piece of shrapnel in my back.
Is that so?
It doesn't bother me, but it's there.
No, but it's
When they
there.
take an x-ray, I have a scar on the back there, so
Yeah, right.
to verify how it entered.
I should say. Well, that, of course, that was a terrible, terrible experience. So you were wounded in both legs
Both legs,
and in the
the
arm
arm, and the back.
and in the back. My goodness.
I have a scar. Here's surgery I had here.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, I can see
This was,
that.
they had some kind of infection, and then they had a tube in it
Yeah, yeah.
until it healed.
And that was in the days of sulfa
Yeah, then they also developed penicillin at
and
that time.
penicillin
They had
about that
penicillin
time,
in it.
yeah. That was
Treatment infections. Oh, I have an interesting medical experience while I was there.
good. Tell us about that.
This doctor there at this army hospital, I guess American doctor,
Mm-hmm.
this leg was wounded in a couple of places here, and it injured nerves and blood vessels. So he had told me, warned me what's going to happen. He says this leg wouldn't last more than 10 years.
Wow. Just imagine.
That's what he told me.
Here
He
you
said-
are 60
but he
years
said it
later.
would be amputated below the knees. I shouldn't worry too much.
So much for that prediction, huh? Well, that's remarkable, Marvin. That's just wonderful. You're a true survivor, and not only do you have the physical stamina, but you got the mental powers to overcome things.
I was brought up in a home. Parents were foreign born, and we didn't have any English newspapers, magazines, or anything of that quality.
Right.
They didn't speak English well,
Uh-huh.
and I came a long way.
Did your parents come from Poland?
Poland and Russia.
Poland and Russia. And that, my goodness, that was
And I picked up no affirmative action.
no affirmative action.
I did it all my.
Didn't need that sort of.
I know so much more than.
Yeah,
Can I give you
come on, give
Okay.
me some more.
I'm fairly versed in Shakespeare.
Wonderful.
Quotation
Yeah,
talks about medicine. I don't know if you heard of this. I don't know which play he wrote, but it says, half the times doctors will help you, and half the times they will kill you.
uh-huh.
That's Shakespeare. Never come across it?
No.
I think that might have come out of, Henry V, Henry
I
IV,
don't remember. I know.
something like that,
I
yeah.
have another one I like, from Timon of Athens.
Oh, yeah.
Are you familiar with that play?
Yep,
Oh,
I've heard of it.
so you?
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
Timon was a very good guy, always doing good things for everybody, and eventually he got into trouble, and nobody came to help. All these people he helped, nobody came to help.
nobody,
Shakespeare describes him.
yeah.
Poor honest Lord, brought low by his own heart, undone by goodness, strange unusual blood, where man's worst sin is he does too much good.
Isn't that something? Yeah,
You ever come across that?
yeah, I've heard it.
You heard that?
Yeah.
Hardly anybody, all
That-
these college graduates have never heard of it.
Well, they just don't get that stuff.
And I picked a lot of this reading much later on in life, but
Of course.
I enjoyed reading his
Well,
stuff.
of course, you're turned on by it and your interest in it. Well, now, psychology, tell me about your degree and
I have a
you've
clinical
done with it.
psychology. I also had a school psychology. I qualified as a school psychologist. I never worked that way, and I worked in rehabilitation agencies.
oh, you did? Oh, have you worked with veterans?
I've never worked at
at the VA or anything?
No, I
like that?
didn't. My last job was at the Cincinnati Association for the Blind here.
Oh, yes, yeah, sure.
And I did counseling there
Sure, sure.
and job placement.
Over on Gilbert Avenue?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, congratulations, you made a great contribution, not only through your military service, but also as a civilian and as a person who obviously had a compassion for people and an interest in
I
people.
help people.
Yeah,
Never felt sorry for myself.
no, no. What about your arm?
Oh, I got wounded in the arm. It was shattered, and then maybe a month or so later, they decided to amputate the arm because they said that I had gangrene in it.
Oh, gosh,
Okay, well,
terrible, terrible.
and then I went to rehabilitation agencies,
Yeah,
the veteran hospitals.
yes, yes. Have you had any, have you had any experience with the local VA hospital?
Yes, I go there regularly.
That's where you go regularly?
Yeah, that's where they take care of all my needs.
Isn't that
In
wonderful?
fact, tomorrow I have an appointment.
Yes,
So I
right.
had to go out. I got to see the podiatrist.
Oh, yes?
I had been doing a lot of walking, but my feet have been bothering me this last couple of months.
Oh, I see.
So I can't.
Do you think
I was-
you think that might have been a throwback to the frostbite?
No, I don't know, but maybe just the injuries. You see, this foot I can do this. This is
Yes.
all I can do here.
Oh, I see.
I can't move it anymore.
Right,
It's
right.
it's a partial paralysis,
Yes.
nerve injuries, and lacks certain sensitivities.
Well, what you suffered, for heaven's sakes, so you got how many Purple Hearts?
Well, I got wounded once.
Once, and that was it?
Yeah.
That was the one time?
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
enough.
what you get the Purple Heart for, of course?
Yes.
Of course. So, there you were near, what was it, Lindenberg? Lindenberg, Germany?
Lindern, Germany.
Lindern, Germany, yeah,
It's
yeah.
a small town.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, Linder in German relates to trees.
Oh,
It might have been
I don't
a
know.
forest town or something. Well, that's interesting. So here you were, badly wounded. Where did the amputation take place? Were you in France, or
In England.
you were in England at
They
that
sent
time?
me to, I think, Holland or Belgium first,
Yeah.
and then they shipped me from there to England.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't remember some of the.
No, well, there's a lot of details that we tend to. forget
I have
about.
problems remembering names.
Well, did you have any interesting experiences with English people in England?
I can't think of
And no social contacts with the pretty girls or anything
no, I
like
never
that?
had a.
So many of the Yanks made nice connections over there, you
Yeah,
know?
I know, maybe I didn't say that. Maybe I wasn't aggressive enough at that time.
Now, what about your parents? How long did they last?
My mother, I think, lasted about the age of 90. My father, about 75, and I think he had Parkinson's.
Oh, yeah,
So it's one of these deteriorations.
sure. But your mother at 90, my goodness,
Well, I think it's also a genetic factor that
yes,
the women in her family
we're strong.
mostly reached about the age of 90.
Isn't that something? That's remarkable.
She was also epileptic,
Oh, dear me.
but she survived.
Survivor.
She had
You bet.
occasional, I remember seeing some seizures that she would
Yes.
have.
Yeah. Did you ever go to Poland? Did you ever?
No.
You never
No,
traveled
I've
there?
gone to Europe on travel. I went
Yeah.
to England and I went to France, Holland, I don't know,
Mhm.
one of the trips going.
Right, right.
I would also go to Israel. I've been there.
Have you really? Been on a kibbutz?
I've been on one.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting.
That's what I'm told. I'd like to try that sometime myself. Going back during the war, there you were in the 84th. What was your regiment?
I was in Company G of the 333rd.
333rd of the 84th Division. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that.
And so many. I get the Rail Splitter publication
Oh, do
regularly,
you?
and they show me all the people who keep dying.
Oh, I know. We're dying rapidly. I know.
Yeah, I don't know what percentage of a small percentage is still alive, I think.
Well, I kind of keep up on things like that. I'll be 86 in February, but this is always, I'm a sort of a historian.
So you were just a little older than me.
Yeah, a couple of years older than you. But I was born in 21, February 28th, 1921.
Okay.
So anyway, your question is interesting, and people who will view this video that Diane is doing so nicely for you and your family and the archives here must realize that here we are almost in December of 2006, 65 years after Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
We're down to about 3.5 million veterans of World War II. There were 16 million at the end of the war. Now we're down to 3.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
The scare people say, well, that's an awful lot. But the scary thing about that is the high rate of mortality now. Because, we're all in our 80s.
That's right.
And some are in their 90s.
I was having a discussion with my grandson, Elliot's son. I was telling him that at least half the people my age are dead.
That's right. The last figure I saw, they surmise that it's between 2,500 and 3,000 a day of us
Keep dying.
are dying.
That's
a high rate. You look at the graph on the wall, and the line goes straight up like that.
I think I'm very happy that my mind is working so well.
Well, it's remarkable. Your memory and your interest in life and people and everything, I think it's absolutely wonderful.
I write poetry. I have written poetry.
Have you really? Have you ever had any contact with the Institute for Learning in Retirement
No.
at UC?
I didn't see any need for it. I can do my own learning on my own.
Okay, there you are. Well, the only thing is...
I read important things.
Yes, exactly. You keep up on the news.
I read the news.
And
I come here, Rachel, vouch for that. I come here, Rachel.
Every day.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Comes and reads the
Oh,
paper.
God bless you all.
I like the New York Times, which I read.
Uh-huh.
I invest in the stock market.
Right, right.
Do you know anything about stocks?
A little bit.
Well, I'll add a little something to your knowledge.
Okay.
I do options. Are you familiar with options?
Not really.
Well, I'll explain.
Okay.
You buy a stock,
Yep.
and you sell somebody the right to buy your stock at a certain price for a certain period of time.
Okay.
That's called an option.
All right.
So this is what I do. It adds to my income.
Of course. Well, that's wonderful.
And
That's great. That's great. Well, what do you like to read? Do you still read Shakespeare?
I still read. I haven't read any Shakespeare in a while, but
Yeah.
what I like is Dickens.
Oh, yes.
I've read, I think, all his novels.
Right, right.
He's a beautiful writer.
Oh, he was a marvelous writer. Have you seen the production at the Playhouse in the Park of The Christmas Carol?
No. I've lost the interest in, I used to go to see plays a lot,
Yeah.
but I can't hear too well, and
Oh,
I
that's,
sort of lost interest in
yeah,
some of
I
these things.
understand. That makes it difficult.
I used to like to see movies a lot. I don't do that any.
Right, right. Well, I think one of my favorite Dickens books was Great Expectations.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, I've read them all, though.
Oh, you've read them all, of course. But those were great stories, and I also am very fond of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, because I'm a mystery guy, and I love.
My wife likes mysteries. I don't do mysteries.
I love the Sherlock
I like
Holmes.
some of the other classics.
Yeah, right.
I
Well,
like Mark Twain.
oh my goodness, yes. Oh,
Okay, I can give you.
our
some-
European cousin. All those
I
funny
I-
things.
Politics.
Yeah,
Franklin Delano Roosevelt, I'm sure you're very well aware of.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what attitude you had of him then, how you have him now, and the New Deal.
Yeah. Well, I have mixed emotions about the New Deal because there were some good things that came out of it to bolster the nation sagging economy through the terrible days of the Depression, which we remember so well. What do you think about FDR?
Well, I'll give you something I read in Mark Twain, The Connecticut Yankee in the Court of King Arthur. I don't know if you came across the quotation when you read it.
All right, give it to me.
I don't know exactly, I wrote it down at home, but you can find it, I'm sure.
Sure.
Talks about going into this town and a small group of people are running everything and getting it's like a company where they get all the dividends and everybody else does all the work.
Right.
And he would like to reform this, and he calls what he wants to do the New Deal.
Right. That's where...
So is FDR plagiarizing?
He sure was.
Were you familiar with that quotation?
No, not at all. I don't remember it from the book at all.
I came across it. So I may have read the book 10 years ago, but it stuck in my mind, so I wrote it down.
Why, sure.
And nobody
But Roosevelt was a very intelligent man.
I know. Couldn't he give Mark Twain credit for it?
I know, you would think so.
Right.
I don't think there was...
It's essentially his idea of how to reform and his term.
Sure. Well, I grew up in the far west, out in Oregon, and my dad was a timberman up in the Douglas fir forest, and so you'll remember the CCC, the
Oh, yes.
Civilian Conservation
I probably
Corps.
got on one of the programs that
Right.
Which was Roosevelt introduced.
That was a remarkable program. That saved a lot of young men. I know that because it gave them work. But I'm so interested in your literary background and your interest. Macbeth is one of probably my favorite Shakespeare plays, and I think that there's so much, and there's so many famous quotations.
Yes.
Oh.
I remember some of these quotations.
Oh yeah, my gosh. And things that we use today and people use and they don't know where they came from. They have no idea what some of those...
Yeah, I come across things of expressions he uses today. I can't remember some of these.
I know what you mean. If you and I got together sometime, we'd dig them out. Well, so there you were in the hospital, and how long were you in England before you came back to the States?
Several. I remember coming over at the time that on the boat they announced that Roosevelt died.
Yeah.
So that gives you an idea. I think it was in
April 45.
For April 45. So
Yep.
I got in the hospital in December of 44, so that was the...
Sure. 4 months later. Well, my goodness, that was tremendous. And then, of course, you were hospitalized after you got back to the States.
Yeah, I was quite a while. Took time to recuperate and
Sure.
have all these things wrong with me. And
I know.
they decide when it was ready for me to get out. That's...
Yeah, right. So, so when were you finally discharged?
And I think it was about August of 40.
46?
40, let's see, 44, 45, I think it was.
45, okay. About the time of the end of the war with Japan, then.
Yeah.
You didn't get up, you weren't lined up to go to Japan, were you?
No. I was barely lined up to do anything.
I know it, not in your condition.
Well, I have a cute quotation out of one of the Russian ones. I don't know if it was Tolstoy or what, I can't remember. But maybe you can know where that comes from. This man sees this young girl walking down the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, she was fairly young, and the term he used to describe her is no longer a girl and not yet a woman.
Aha.
I like that quotation.
Right in between. Yeah, and that could be very a very trying time for youngsters.
Yes.
I know,
I don't remember what age it was,
I know.
but I like the quotation.
Yeah, well, I have some teenage, granddaughters, and they're going through some interesting periods of development. So, did they make a point of putting you in a hospital here in the States near New York?
Well, it was it was Upper New York State I went.
Upper New York, okay.
I forgot the name of
Yeah.
some of these things I don't remember anymore.
Well, I know.
I know it was Upper New York State.
I know how you feel. We don't
And
talk about.
Then I went to, was it Atlantic City, one of the old resort areas. It was
Yeah.
a hotel they converted into a hospital.
Right, right,
That was in Atlantic City.
right.
And then then they decided to close that program down there.
Mhm.
And then they shipped me, had a choice of places to go, so I picked, I thought I can see the West Coast. Well, they're paying for it.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. Well,
I have another variation that you'll probably recognize. It's a variation from the, what's the Romeo and Juliet.
mhm.
And I converted this into politics. You'll recognize the source, a plague on both your parties.
Oh, yeah, on both your houses.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So I made this quote.
That's good. That's very applicable, I'll
Yes.
tell you. Especially today, it's so different than,
I make a variety of interpretations.
yeah, well, I
I'm
like that.
creative.
I like that. It's creative. That's very good. That's excellent.
Well, you want to hear a religious quotation I made?
I love it.
made up?
You bet.
By the various Bibles are made up of three qualities: philosophy, history, and science fiction.
Science fiction. Oh, boy.
There are a lot of people like it.
Of course, of course. Well,
That's my own creation.
you can relate to that very easily, you know?
I can see so many things that take place written in it.
Absolutely, I should say. Can you think of any other instances that you recall about your past life? How about when did you come to Cincinnati?
About 40 years ago, I think.
In the 1960s, huh?
Something like that. I can't remember exactly, I know.
Okay.
It was a good length of time.
What brought you here?
I wanted to leave New York City. It was too crowded. I'd like to more rural, so I came across a job here.
Right.
And
And this is a wonderful community.
I think Cincinnati's a very nice
I
place.
love it.
It's attractive and has all. I've never felt sorry that I had an interesting experience with my wife on this. She wasn't happy to move officially,
Right.
but and for a while she wasn't happy at being here. And then after being here a year, she decided she wouldn't want to go back.
That's a pretty good mark.
Yeah.
Well, I bet you both, it sounds to me as if you're both attuned to each other very well. And did she have similar interests in history and literature as you?
She likes to read, but she reads different things than I do.
Yeah, I understand. That's wonderful.
Okay.
And
She's
now-
a musician.
Oh, she is? Oh,
Yeah.
good. What's her?
She teaches piano, and she has worked at the Conservatory of Music at one time, and then
Mhm.
she also taught at the College of Mount St. Joseph.
Oh, yes.
And then after she left there, she just teaches at home.
Right, right. Well, I have
And she's active with plays chamber music.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Very enriching part of your life. I have a slight connection with the World Piano Competition. You know
World
that
Piano?
organization here in town.
She belongs to all kinds of music organizations.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's great. Now, what about your children?
Well,
Elliot, of course, is a
Elliot is in the restaurant business.
Restaurateur.
Another one does catering, and he lives in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
I have a son living in Spokane, Washington,
Oh, yeah, I know Spokane.
and he's a musician.
Oh,
He teaches string instruments in the public school system there,
really?
and he's played in bands and things. Elliot has been musical too.
Right.
He used to play in some music groups.
Well, that's interesting about your son in Spokane, because the present dean of the College Conservatory of Music at UC
Yeah.
is from Spokane,
Oh.
Douglas Lowry. Yeah.
So,
And I'm being a Westerner, I picked up on that early when he came to town, and we've had some fun, because I knew Spokane in the old cowboy days. It's a very beautiful place.
I think it's a beautiful city. I like walking around there.
Beautiful. And that river and the falls, everything there, it's just gorgeous.
What's that lake in Idaho?
Yeah, Coeur d'Alene.
Coeur d'Alene. I used to go swimming there.
Yeah,
That was a beautiful lake.
yeah, great water, clear, crystal.
In fact, in some of the places I used to like to swim across lakes.
Sure.
Oh, I have had another interesting experience in my
Good.
swimming. I don't think you have anybody who's ever had this experience. I used to go swimming in some of the lakes here
Mhm.
in the Cincinnati area. I guess I'm the only one you know who's got a swimming ticket. I swam in an area outside of the restricted, and a boat comes along, and it
They gave you a ticket?
didn't have to pay anything, but it was
Give you,
a swimming ticket.
oh, that's amazing.
I think I'm the only one in Cincinnati.
I think you're right. You're the only one I've ever heard of to get a ticket for swimming.
I can't
Improper.
locate it anyway. I saved it like a relic.
Oh, that's wonderful. How long have you lived here in Wyoming?
About 20 years.
Uh-huh. Well, it's a wonderful community, and of course, did you live in Avondale by any chance?
I lived in North Avondale.
North Avondale, how about that?
In fact, I did something interesting that, you familiar with North Avondale?
Yes, I am.
I lived on Burton Woods Lane,
Okay, I know it.
you know, there.
Yeah.
I lived there probably maybe about 25 years. My kids grew up, moved out,
All right.
picked a too big a house to own.
Sure,
And it's easier, we rented this apartment where we're living in now,
typical.
and I would walk around there a lot too.
Beautiful area.
Beechwood, and the Rose Hill.
Right, Rose Hill. I'll bet you knew Robert Fabe, the artist.
I know the name, I may have met
Yeah,
him.
he was a wonderful
But
guy. He
They
died.
were digging up Beechwood there,
Oh,
and I was walking around, and I came across what looked like it was a wooden brick which paved that street.
for heaven's sake.
It was in good condition, I still have it.
Isn't that amazing?
And I was told by one of the workers there that this street was paved in wooden bricks, so before they had cars, they had horses,
Yes.
and it won't make as much noise on a wooden than on the stone.
Isn't that something? It
It's
had
a
to
bit
be.
of history.
You bet. It had to be
How
a.
many people know about it?
And you've got one
I
of.
got one of the bricks,
One
a
of the
very good
pieces?
wooden brick.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I've been a member of the Historical Society for a
Mhm.
number of years, and I do remember now that there were several streets paved with wooden bricks, but I never thought about it too much.
Well, if you want to come over to my house, you can
I'd love to see it
show
sometime.
it to you. You have my phone number.
That would be wonderful, Marvin.
And it was in very good condition. I just picked it up and nobody said anything.
And it was only one, huh?
The only one I remember. There were maybe parts of some that were not too good condition, but this was good.
Right. That's very interesting. Well, we're rolling right along here, and
Okay.
I don't want to miss anything from your interesting life, and anything that you can recall. It doesn't matter whether it was in the war or your child.
There are a lot of things I can do with one hand that.
Well, I
don't think-
bet you had to adapt, didn't you?
Yes, I doubt. Well, my kids were small, I used to tie their shoelaces with one hand.
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine having to do that.
I did my own, so
Well,
they
sure.
taught me how to do it.
Isn't that amazing?
I figured if I could do mine, I could do it. I did them.
Absolutely. Oh, that's terrific. And of course, you had to learn to write left-handed?
Well, the thing is, I was essentially left-handed anyways.
Oh, you were? Oh,
But
well.
when I went to school, you weren't allowed to write with your left hand.
I know
You
that.
had to write with the right hand.
They discourage that, I know
Well,
that.
that's the
yeah.
way that's the education system.
Yeah, I know.
So I wrote with my right hand, and
Yeah.
I had to adjust it very easily with my.
Well, of course. Well, that was fortunate.
There are a lot of things I do.
Right. How are we doing on?
We've got about 15 minutes left.
Oh, good, wonderful. We've got a lot of time yet, Marvin.
Okay.
In your travels, not only abroad but around the country,
I did a lot of traveling.
yes, a lot of
I
domestic
used to drive a lot.
Yes, I love to do that. yeah.
We traveled all over the country.
Sure.
One of the memorable experiences, which has an interesting background, is Glacier National Park. Have you been there?
I know it well.
Oh,
I'll let you continue, but just to give you an idea how well I know it.
yeah,
My father-in-law
yeah.
was the lead engineer for the Bureau of Public Roads that
Oh.
built Going to the Sun Mountain Highway. Now, go
Oh.
ahead.
Yeah,
Tell us about your Glacier
so I
Park.
had this experience, and we would hike up to Iceberg Lake.
Okay,
I'm sure you know
Iceberg Lake.
And I was told by a guide there that the temperature in Iceberg Lake never gets above about 35. That sounds right?
Ooh, I think so, yeah.
So we walking there with a large group, and coming back, there was a couple of small groups we'd walked together with, and we got home very, very well to where we were. My wife couldn't do that kind of walk.
Mm-hmm.
It's fairly, I don't know, is it a couple of miles up?
Yeah, a couple of miles and fairly steep one way.
It's
and
fairly
then-
steep coming down. And I think that they have the newspaper, there's a Hungry Horse News.
Yeah,
They had an article, my son was working there, and he had this newspaper there, and it described a couple who was going there, and they were attacked by a bear, that same area I was on.
for heavens.
And the wife beat off the bear with a camera case or something like that.
Wha-
The same place I was there a couple of weeks ago. So I saved the article.
Oh, well, that's very.
That's an interesting experience.
Oh, I should say so. Well, that's very interesting.
That's where, and they also had huckleberries there too.
Huckleberries there too, yeah,
I picked those.
yeah. Out in Oregon, we had salmon berries,
I don't know those.
named after the fish,
Oh.
salmon. And they grew along the coast in the very high rain forest area. They were very unusual. My mother used to make salmon berry jam and jelly. But anyway, getting back to your travels, have you done the Southwest United States?
Yes. What else? What was it? Petrified Forest, I was
Okay,
there.
Arizona,
And
yeah.
then I went into the ones in parks in California. I forgot what was the national parks.
Mhm.
Forgot the name.
Mhm. All right.
I try to introduce my wife into outdoor camping. So
Not too successful?
she didn't quite, I enjoyed it.
Oh, I love it too,
Yeah,
yeah. Were
I
you ever,
enjoyed sleeping on the ground, and
Sure.
we slept on the ground one night, so we have to get something like an air mattress or something.
were you ever a Boy Scout?
Never a Boy Scout.
Never a Boy Scout, okay.
The Army was my Boy Scout.
That was your Boy Scouting and
But I did
camping.
a lot of traveling and
Yeah.
enjoyed the outdoors.
Yeah. Well, being a knowledgeable traveler around this country, I'm sure that you have certain spots that are very favorite of yours, like Glacier Park and so forth.
Yeah. I went to Upper New York State. They have a lot of big lakes there.
Beautiful up there. Oh,
Beautiful country.
Adirondacks, the Catskills.
Yeah.
You know a place by the name of Roscoe, New York?
The name is familiar.
Yeah. It's on Highway 18
Uh-huh.
that runs across from Jamestown to Newburgh. And Roscoe is right at the end of the Catskills where the trout streams are.
Yeah.
And the fishermen come up there all the time. Beautiful, beautiful area. Well, I love to talk with you about the United States because,
I think it's a beautiful country.
oh, there's so much to see here.
So many people don't appreciate it.
That's right. They want to go to France, they want to go to
It's
Italy.
ridiculous.
Well, it is.
We've got nicer things here than all these other places, and so easy.
That's exactly right. I couldn't agree with you more. And there's so much to see and so much richness. And it doesn't have to be the, it doesn't have to be the topographical or geological aspects, but what's in your mind and what you learn about the people, the people who settled at different areas and so forth. Well, upstate New York has always fascinated me. I've been up there
It's a
several.
beautiful state.
It is just gorgeous. And
In fact, I lived in a
yeah.
place 100 miles away. So
Sure. Well, and then, you've got the Watkins Glen, where they have the auto races and everything,
I didn't go in for that. So.
Uh-huh, yeah. So the broad
In my
variety.
early life, I didn't even have an auto. Didn't have an experience with autos.
Yeah, I know. I didn't get my first automobile till I came back after the war.
Well, that's when I got mine.
Yeah.
I think I got a car through the veterans thing.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
My first car was, they were giving leg amputees cars first.
Right.
And later on they gave arm. But I had a connection through a veteran organization. There's a veteran organization, disabled veterans, made up of an amputee chapter.
Oh, really?
Yes.
How about that?
It's in New York City. I
Sure.
got involved there. So
Well, then of course you've been well aware of the DAV.
yeah, that's the disabled.
You
American
belong to
veteran.
that, yeah.
Yeah, that's just part of the DAV.
Right, DAV, Disabled American Veterans. Well, I
They had a
can,
variety of benefits I took advantage of. This veteran organization had contact with some of the theaters, and they used to get free tickets to some of these. I used to go to
how about
some of the
that?
plays for nothing.
How about that? That's great. That's
And
great.
then I had an experience when I was in the hospital. They got free tickets to go to see the Philadelphia Orchestra
Oh, the symphony.
from Atlantic City. They shipped us there.
Sure.
I told my wife, yeah. There are a lot of interesting experiences.
Well, yes, and that was something that a lot of people overlook, and in this great country of ours, that, and particularly in World War II, the spirit of the nation
Yeah.
was to win and to conquer our enemies who had stabbed us in the back. And but you're pointing out very clearly the different advantages that you were offered, and a lot of people don't realize how fortunate we were in many ways to have those things. And those were all broadening experiences for a young lad like yourself. Boy, oh boy, I think it's wonderful to learn about you, and I've been very blessed to be able to do these interviews. I've met so many interesting people, and I'm going to do a Red Cross nurse next week who served in North Africa. How about that? Well, I know what I wanted to ask you. Was the 84th part of Patton's Third Army? Do you know that?
I'm pretty sure that was it. Our unit went in on the Battle of the Bulge after I got wounded.
Yes.
I know that.
Oh, so you missed the Battle of the
I
Bulge.
missed, too bad.
Oh, yeah, right. Time out on that. Well,
I had enough experiences.
well, I should say, and the tremendous contribution that you've made and the sacrifice sacrifices that you've made through your physical.
I don't consider it sacrifices, that's the thing.
Well, good. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
There was somebody else who was in my unit who I kept contact with after we got out of the service. He lived in New Jersey.
Okay.
He was never really wounded, but maybe minor.
Yeah.
And we kept this correspondence up ever since, up till the past year, and he's gotten some kind of medical condition that's deteriorating,
Oh.
like Lou Gehrig's disease,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
ALS, I think it is.
ALS, yeah.
So
Oh,
it's
that's.
unfortunate. He's a couple of months, about 2 or 3 months younger than me,
Uh-huh.
and here I'm going strong yet, and he's...
You are. You're amazing. I congratulate you heartily, because I think you're a very outstanding man. And
I'm also a diabetic, I didn't mention.
Oh,
Did
my
I mention that to you?
No.
Okay.
Good heavens.
I'll tell you my experiences with that. I am a diabetic for the past 20 years.
Wow.
And I'm very unusual that way too, because after I became a diabetic, I stopped eating sweets.
Mm-hmm.
And not only did I stop eating sweets, I never ate any artificial sweeteners either. So I found out after a year and a half that I developed a distaste for sweets.
Really?
I mentioned it to doctors, they don't
Yeah.
pay much attention.
How about that?
The only sweet things I think is I eat naturally in fruit.
Fruit. Sure.
And a lot of people don't realize that things like carrot taste sweet to me.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that something? How
Yeah.
about that?
You become more sensitive what things are sweet.
Yes, of course. I should say.
And I almost reached a point that diabetes is not even a disease. I have to get a pill, exercise.
And you keep it under control. Plus the fact that you've got this strong mind and spirit and will to
My
survive.
wife's a diabetic, she doesn't want to follow my advice. I know. A good example of it.
Well, absolutely. Look, you're a shining example of it, I should say. Well, listen, anything else you can think of that you'd like
I'll
to...
probably think about it after we go.
Well, give me a call on the phone. I'll write it down.
Okay.
But no, you've had such a remarkable life, and you've been a wonderful contributor to society through your interest in people and everything. And I think.
Can I share something else with you?
Absolutely.
I have biblical interpretations.
Oh, good.
I read things and I analyze.
Yeah.
Now, in the story of King David,
Yep.
you're well familiar,
Little
And
David,
Jonathan.
play on your harp.
right? He had a close friend.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan dies. I think he dies in battle.
Right.
And the Bible describes David's attitude toward Jonathan. It describes him as loving. David loved Jonathan more than he loved woman.
Isn't that something?
That's a quotation.
Yeah.
I think there's a homosexual quality to that.
It could be. Yeah. It could be.
I notice these things.
Of course. Well.
And I
you're
told
aware.
some people they give me some excuse why this is not so.
Yeah, right, right. Well, you're mentioning the Bible and so forth, and of course we remember Dr. Nelson Gleek so very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, the great scholar here who died a number of years ago. Well, I think we've run out of time.
Okay.
This has been
I gave you plenty of information.
well, this has been a wonderful
I
experience
enjoyed this too.
for me, Marvin, and we thank you very much for opening up. And I know that your family and people who will see this from the archives will be very grateful at what your contribution has been to our country. And we thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.